It's the ultimate betrayal that made headlines around the world. Disgraced dentist turned body snatcher. Michael Mastromarino was busted for illegally harvesting bones and body tissue from the recently deceased, and then forging documents to make them appear healthy. Now, Michael's ex-wife, Barbara, is here today to reveal the secrets of her life with the man she now calls a monster. But first, take a look at the shocking case of the body snatcher. Michael Mastromarino was a highly regarded oral surgeon with an office at the famous Rockefeller Center in New York City. He and his beautiful wife, Barbara, were raising sons Mike and Jerry in Fort Lee, New Jersey. But his family had no idea Michael had a secret drug addiction. In 2002, Michael lost his dental license when he was arrested for possession and being under the influence of a controlled substance. He quickly got a different license, one that would allow him to sell human tissue. Michael started a company, Biomedical Tissue Services, and began harvesting tissue, ligaments, and bones from cadavers. But he forged consent forms and death certificates. He set up a network of undertakers and reportedly paid $1,000 per body, making $10,000 to $15,000 off each of the parts he removed from each body he defiled. Michael sold body parts from people who died of cancer, HIV, hepatitis, and other diseases. These parts went to unknowing hospitals around the world and were used in a wide variety of operations that caused multiple patients to become ill. Biomedical Tissue Services would also let bodies sit for days without refrigeration in unsanitary conditions. Michael made millions of dollars, lived a high life, and harvested parts from more than 1,600 bodies before authorities discovered his crimes. As news spread, families of the deceased who were illegally harvested were left horrified and heartbroken. And thousands of tissue recipients were left fearing what illnesses they may have contracted. Unbelievable. Joining us now is former homicide prosecutor and host of Investigation Discovery's True Conviction, Anna-Sigga Nicolazzi. She was a prosecutor in the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office when Michael Mastromarino was investigated. She saw the worst of the worst in her 21 years working in the Brooklyn DA's office. How does this guy Mastromarino compare?
This is a different type of depravity than a lot of what I saw as a homicide prosecutor. This one was so far-reaching. It really came down to three separate sets of victims. The first is the bodies of those that had died as they were laid to rest. They expected to be laid to rest in one way, but they ultimately were literally cut up surgically, as unsuspecting to all of them. The second was the families of all these people who thought that they were burying their loved ones the way that they had all envisioned, and instead they were actually stuffed with PVC piping, forever unsuspecting to all of them.
This is the plastic piping that's traditionally used, in your sewage. And this is an X-ray, by the way. If you just look at that, that's not what bones look like. You're all clear on that. Right.
So many people are right now like that, thanks to Mastromarino. The third group is perhaps the worst, and those were all the unsuspecting patients. And now forever they are left to wonder, was infectious disease put into me? Because some of these people knew no limits. They forged certificates and documents saying that these body parts were often healthier and younger than they were, yet they had been exposed to HIV, cancer, and many other things. And so many people, when you put these three groups together, there are thousands of victims in this case that together really were part of Mastromarino's personal road to riches. So it is one of the largest scales of human depravity that I've ever seen.
So just to be clear on what you just saw, bones, ligaments, veins, tendons, they can be harvested from recently deceased people in order to help other people, right? But it's crucial that they're screened properly. The family has to give permission. The patient often has said, please, I don't need my body where I'm going. You can share it. But that process is sacred. And when you undermine it the way he did, you actually compromise the ability for this whole space to move forward, to help people who can benefit from these cadaveric elements. So how did the authorities finally identify Mastromarino's depravity? Because it's slippery, right? I mean, no one's going to question whether the person who was dead gave you a permit, usually, right? The patients getting them are just thankful they're getting something.
You would never think about it. It actually came to light in a completely unrelated way and very small in scale. One of the funeral homes that was caught up in all of this was sold, and the new owner went to police because of a financial dispute they were having with the old owner, who was one of Mastromarino's accomplices. Went about the financial dispute and then said to authorities, oh, and by the way, it really is almost a throwaway. Upstairs in one of the rooms, they are cutting up bodies for transplants. Obviously, police went in, they went upstairs, not knowing the Pandora's box that was about to be opened. They went into this room that was really almost ghoulish in nature, but it was a real operating room. And that was the first domino that led to this case completely being unboxed.
Did the victims of Mastromarino's depravity ever get justice?
That's not an easy question to answer. On the one hand, I do believe that they received justice that the criminal justice system can give them. Two very close friends of mine were the prosecutors in this case, and I know that they worked tirelessly together with law enforcement to figure all this out and to build the strong cases that ultimately led to the guilties. Mastromarino faced up to 54 years when sentenced. They secured millions from Mastromarino that went back to the victims in this case, and that's a feat in itself, and it certainly accounts for something. But on the other hand, how can you ever really make right this type of crime? The families know that their loved ones were literally surgically taken apart and remain that way forever. You have all these people out there that went for medical necessary procedures and they don't know if they were infected or how that's going to impact them later on. So I don't know that you really could ever make someone whole from something like this.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so after Mastromarino pled guilty, he was sentenced up to 54 years in prison, leaving behind his wife and two young sons. Now his ex-wife, Barbara Raphael, has a new book out. It's called The Body Snatcher's Wife. The subtitle of the book is My Life with a Monster. Thank you for being here. This is, I'm sure, hard to go through. When did you figure out that this man you had been in love with, who had had two sons with, was actually a monster?
I think I first truly realized sitting in the DA's office. He was already in Rikers Island, and he was in talks with the DA, and he admitted it all to me at that moment.
He did?
Yeah, he admitted it all. He said I did everything wrong.
As law enforcement was tying him down to the truth,
Yes.
he became more erratic in his behavior. Did you ever fear for your life?
I did. He was going to put all the money in my name for all these businesses he had before he needed to present himself in Philadelphia, and he was going to do away with me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
I'm here.
A cold chill. You're still here. That's right. You're here.
I'm here.
And he's not.
Yes, and my boys are good too. So.
And coming up, Barbara's going to be revealing more secrets from her life living with a monster, including the infamous killer her husband says he befriended in prison. In 2008, disgraced dentist Michael Mastromarino pleaded guilty to numerous charges stemming from his years of illegally harvesting body tissue. Now, his ex-wife, Barbara Raphael, has a new book out. It's called The Body Snatcher's Wife. Barbara says that throughout Michael's years in the human tissue recovery business, he actually kept freezers at their home that no one was allowed to touch. Knowing what you know now, what do you think your husband Michael was doing with those freezers?
Well, I'll tell you at first, he said, Barb, don't go in there. Nobody go in there. This is in the three-car garage where my children's bikes were, their soccer balls, basketballs. And he was always into research. Even when he was a craniofacial surgeon, oral surgeon, he was always into research. So I didn't think twice when he said, it's for research. That's what he said. But after everything unfolded, I know that that had to be the tainted tissue.
Think of how many lives were hurt.
Yes.
Taken maybe by his actions. So after authorities began investigating Barbara's husband, Michael, she says he took the oldest son to a funeral home. I just can't believe that a father would do this to a son, but if you can, explain to the audience what went down.
Well, I thought he was just going to go and take Michael to visit his grandparents in Brooklyn. It turns out he brought him to the funeral home to assist him in cutting up one of the bodies. Mm-hmm. And he was 11 years old. So of course, I was going to kill him. I mean, not figuratively, I was going to kill him. I was over him and I was furious. I was in his face yelling and telling him, how could you do that? Because it's not only the fear of it, but the danger. Yeah. He has this child holding knives and dealing with dead bodies. And what if there was a disease? Obviously, we know now that a lot of the bodies had disease.
Well, I want to have your son out here in a few minutes because I want to hear from his perspective what went down with his dad. But you write about years of suffering through violence, abuse, infidelity, you touched on earlier on. But you didn't divorce your husband, Michael, until after he'd pleaded guilty. Why'd you stick around?
Well, I'll tell you this. The one reason why I didn't, and I told my boys this as well, is that I was afraid because he had the drug problem, what if I couldn't, because he was such a master. He would pass every urine test, every test that any authority ever gave him. So I was afraid that I'd never be able to protect my children if he had custody or like partial custody in his hands. What would happen to my children? You know, so I mean, behind a wheel, how would he treat them? Would he be on drugs and do something terrible to them? There are a lot of fears.
So as you're learning more and more about your husband, he starts bragging to you that he's befriended Robert Chambers, the preppy killer. Remember the guy who killed that poor girl at Central Park?
Yeah.
What did he tell you about Robert Chambers? Why would he befriend a murderer?
To me, they were very similar. It made sense that they became friends. But what Michael told me about him is, yeah, he was there for me. He helped me get along in prison, you know, the ropes and things like that. That's basically what he did. He didn't really tell me much detail, but he just said he had my back. That's what he said.
I don't know if the preppy killer has your back. You're not that well protected. After Michael's sentencing, Barbara vowed to never talk to him again. But after 5 years of no contact with Michael, you changed your mind. You visited him in prison. Why?
Well, we got a phone call from his brother that he had 3 months to live. He had cancer. And my first thought was, that's really sad. Like I had like a moment of a tear. I mean, he was the father of my children and my husband for a long time. And he wasn't 100% a monster at moments. They had moments of decency, moments. And the second was relief.
Relief?
Relief.
That he wasn't going to be there to bother you?
No, not bother me. I felt in danger. I felt my children's minds were in danger. I felt like he told me at one point he had long arms from prison. That means he could do anything he wants from there. And so, you know, there was a point of living in fear in that way as well. And on top of that, the whole world. Like I really thought that his mind would go, because he was so brilliant and people believed him, that he can, obviously, he was the king of tissue all across the world, right?
That's right.
When he was there, he was telling me about this cancer curing machine he was going to do. And I said, what makes you think you're going to do that the right way? You keep taking the dark path. And he said, no, I'm going to do it right this time. So believe me, the world is a safer place.
Coming up, it's very sobering. Michael and Barbara's sons are here. They're going to reveal what it was like to reconnect with their father in prison and how he's still affecting their lives today. I'm back with Barbara Reifel, whose ex-husband, Michael Mastromarino, pleaded guilty to numerous charges stemming from years of illegally harvesting body tissue. We're now joined by their sons, Michael Jr. and Gerald. Michael, your mom writes very openly about a fear she has that you may turn out to have been like your father. What do you think about that fear? And just before we started, I was going to call him your dad, but you didn't want me to call him your dad. Why?
Your dad is someone who takes care of you, takes care of your family, puts you guys before himself, and that's not what he did. So he is my father. I do love him, but he put a lot of things first before us that to me weren't more important than his family.
Fears about turning out like him? Are they warranted?
That's what I saw, that's what I grew up with. And then over time, as I separated myself from him, I realized that what he was doing was wrong, and those fears weren't there anymore.
Gerald, did you have any fears that you may turn out to be like your dad, pull up some of his tendencies, the dishonesty that your mom was telling me about earlier?
No, I mean, I was the younger child, so I didn't get I feel like he babied me more. And I started reading the book, and by the third chapter, I was already crying. So, I don't even know the full story yet either, but I didn't have any fears of that because I feel like I just try to stay positive, and I learned what not to do.
So Barbara visited Michael, her husband, ex-husband, one last time in prison when she thought he was hours away from dying. And you let him hold your hand, which I was a little surprised by, understanding your story a bit more. Here's the man who had betrayed you and your sons, hadn't been there for you. Why did you let him hold your hands? Why did you let him have closure?
Well, I think it was, for me, it was just a human element for me. I mean, even when I cried. He was the father of my children, and I knew that I was going to be able to walk out. And this was a dying man's wish to simply hold my hand, and I'm like, you know what, just do it. You know, even for the sake of his family, even for the sake of my children. It was no skin off of my back to say. He was a little creepy. I have to say, it was a little creepy. I couldn't wait to get my hand back, but you know, I did it. And he was 6'3" at that time, 125 pounds. He was a skeleton with tumors all over his body. So it was a very sad condition to see. Yeah. It was, yeah.
Michael Mastromarino died on July the 7th, 2013, just 5 years into his sentence. What was it like to lose your father?
I lost him twice. I lost him when I was 14, he went to prison, and I lost him again when I was 18, going into my 19th year. And then on my birthday is when he went to the next stage of wherever he was going to go after this life.
How's your mom been throughout all this?
I like to think Jerry and I are a reflection of my mother, and we've molded ourselves after my mom in being strong and making sure that we're okay. I
think she did a good job playing both roles. Like, after he was already out of our lives for 4 or 5 years, it was like normal to not have a dad. Like, that became normal life. Like, just not having conversations about your dad. Like, and it always felt a little weird when people kind of bring it up. Like, you just get a weird feeling because it's like, I'm not going to talk about my dad. Like, but she's the strongest woman I know, and to be able to turn this story of pain into something positive, as positive as it can be, because I know there's a lot of people affected, but yeah.
Let's talk about them. Barbara, what's your message to the thousands of people horribly betrayed by Michael's illegal body harvesting?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He was such a terrible man, and we're not victims by any means compared to what they've had to go through. They don't know every day of their life. Will they be sick? Their memories are desecrated. We're whole, but he just ruined lives. He ruined so many lives, and my part of it is I can only say I'm sorry. That's all. I really am.
The Body Snatcher's Wife. It's well told. You should finish the book. Your mom did a very good job.
I will.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.